What did I tell you I'd do? If I found your sheep grazing another man's land?
If you thought the Duttons had already faced their worst nightmares, think again. 1923. Season 2, Episode 6 is about to take everything we know and turn it upside down. Spencer is closer than ever to returning home, but his journey has never been more dangerous. Alexandra, on the other hand, is trapped in a nightmare she never saw coming. Just when we thought she had endured the worst, fate proves us wrong. And let's not forget the storm brewing back in Montana. Banner is growing more ruthless, Donald's grip is tightening, and the Duttons are running out of time. Who will survive the chaos that's about to unfold? Spencer's return to Montana was supposed to be a moment of triumph, a long-awaited homecoming where he would stand beside his family and fight for their land. But nothing ever goes as planned in 1923. Episode 6 will see Spencer facing a new level of danger, one that could cost him his life before he even steps foot in Montana. In the last episode, he barely escaped with his life after a violent encounter that left him battered but determined. Now, as he gets closer to the U.S., the enemies he never knew he had are closing in. And then there's Alexandra. If you thought her suffering had reached its peak, Episode 6 will prove otherwise. We all saw her strength, her resilience, but even the strongest can be broken when faced with pure evil. Donald is still on the hunt for a new pawn, and with Alexandra stranded, vulnerable, and desperate to survive, the pieces are falling into place for her to become his next victim. She has lost everything, her wealth, her status, and now even her freedom is at risk. There's a chilling inevitability to her situation, a sense that something truly horrific is about to happen. And the worst part? Spencer has no idea. He's fighting his own war while the woman he loves faces the darkest moment of her life. Meanwhile, Banner is tightening his grip on Montana, and his confidence is growing. He knows that with every passing day, the Duttons are losing ground, and his partnership with Donald has made him feel untouchable. But what he doesn't realize is that the Duttons are not backing down. Jacob may be older, weaker, and still recovering from his wounds, but if there's one thing we know about the Duttons, it's that they don't break easily. Episode 6 will see them preparing for their next battle, gathering their allies, and making it clear that they will fight to their last breath to protect what's theirs. But there's another storm coming, one that no one sees yet. The law is closing in on Teonna, and her days of running may finally be coming to an end. The question is, who will get to her first? The Duttons, who could offer her protection, or the forces hunting her, determined to make her pay for her escape? Spencer's journey has never been just about returning home. It has been a battle for survival at every turn. And now, in Episode 6, that battle reaches a terrifying new level. Every step closer to Montana brings new obstacles, but this time, it's not just fate working against him. There are forces actively trying to stop him. He has fought against nature, against the odds, but now he faces a threat far more insidious. Someone does not want him to return. His past has left enemies in its wake, and while he may not know their names yet, they are closing in fast. He will have to fight, not just for himself, but for Alexandra, for the family he left behind, and for the legacy that is slipping further from his grasp with every moment he is delayed. But the biggest question remains, will he make it back in time, or will the battle for the Yellowstone be lost before he ever sets foot on the ranch? As Spencer fights to get back, Alexandra is trapped in a nightmare of her own. She is alone, vulnerable, and dangerously close to losing herself in the darkness surrounding her. From the moment she defied her family and chose Spencer, she became a target. And now, that decision is catching up to her in ways she never imagined. The power she once had as a woman of status is gone, and in its place is a terrifying uncertainty. There are people watching, waiting for the moment to strike. She knows it. She can feel it. And the worst part? Spencer isn't there to save her. Not yet. Episode 6 will push Alexandra to her limits, testing not only her strength, but her will to survive. She has come so far, endured so much, but there is only so much one person can take before they break. And if Spencer doesn't reach her in time, she may not be the same woman he once knew. She may be lost forever. Meanwhile, back in Montana, the walls are closing in on the Duttons. Jacob has always been a fighter, A leader, but even the strongest warriors grow tired, and the wounds of his past battles have left scars that won't fade. His body may be weaker, but his spirit is as strong as ever. He knows that Banner and Donald are coming for everything he has built, and he knows that this time there is no room for mistakes. But how do you fight an enemy that doesn't play by the rules? Banner isn't just using force, he's using politics, corruption, and power that cannot be fought with bullets alone. Episode 6 will show just how deep his influence runs, how much control he has gained while the Duttons were focused on survival. The battlefield has shifted, and Jacob knows that if they don't act soon, there may not be anything left to fight for. But while Jacob prepares for war, there is another battle happening in the shadows, one that no one sees coming. Teonna has spent her life running, but now she is out of places to hide. The men hunting her are relentless, and with every passing moment, the distance between her and her pursuers grows smaller. She has fought for her freedom, for her right to exist beyond the horrors she was forced to endure, but freedom comes at a price. And in episode 6, that price may finally come due. The law is closing in, and with no allies left, she is faced with an impossible choice: surrender and lose everything, or fight and risk it all. No matter what she chooses, one thing is certain: her story is far from over. And as the storm clouds gather over Montana, as the tension reaches its breaking point, one question lingers in the air: who will survive the coming storm? Because in 1923, survival is never guaranteed, and the cost of victory may be more than anyone is willing to pay. Spencer has always been a survivor, a man forged in the fires of war, loss, and the unforgiving wilderness. But even the strongest warriors have their breaking point. As episode 6 unfolds, Spencer finds himself caught in a web of danger far more complex than anything he has ever faced before. His journey back to Montana has been a series of impossible challenges: fierce storms, deadly enemies, and the unrelenting pull of fate working against him at every turn. But now, the true danger is revealed. There are forces at play that want to keep him from ever stepping foot on the Yellowstone. Powerful men with deep pockets and ruthless ambitions see his return as a threat, and they will stop at nothing to make sure he never reaches his family. Spencer isn't just fighting for his own survival anymore, he's fighting against an enemy he can't even see. Every step forward feels like 2 steps back, and as the walls close in around him, doubt starts creeping into his mind. What if he never makes it home? What if he's already too late? And what if, in trying to return, he has only put Alexandra in even greater danger? Alexandra, meanwhile, is living a nightmare of her own. She knew the moment she left her privileged life behind that there would be consequences, but she never expected them to be this cruel. Stranded and alone, she is at the mercy of those who see her as nothing more than a disgrace. A woman who turned her back on her family and status for the love of a man society deems unworthy. Her once powerful name now means nothing, and instead of being treated with respect, she is now a pawn in a game far more dangerous than she ever imagined. There are whispers in the dark, threats hidden behind polite smiles, and an unshakable feeling that something terrible is coming. But Alexandra is no longer the naive girl she once was. She has endured the wild-faced death alongside Spencer and survived the impossible. She may be alone, but she is not weak. And if she is going to make it through this, she will have to prove just how strong she really is. The question is, how much more can she endure before she breaks? And if she does, will Spencer get to her before it's too late? Back in Montana, the storm brewing over the Yellowstone is ready to explode. Jacob Dutton knows that war is inevitable, but this is a battle unlike any he has faced before. The enemy is no longer just a group of cattle thieves or ruthless land grabbers. This is something bigger. Banner Creighton has never been more dangerous. And now, backed by Donald Whitfield, his power has grown beyond what anyone could have predicted. Money buys influence, and Whitfield has plenty of it. Corrupt officials, lawmen on his payroll, and judges willing to look the other way. All of it adds up to one terrifying reality. The Duttons are outnumbered and outmatched. And the worst part? Spencer isn't there to help them. With every passing day, Jacob grows more aware of his own limitations. He is not the man he once was. The wounds from his past battles still ache, And though his mind is as sharp as ever, his body is betraying him. But Jacob Dutton has never been one to surrender. If this is to be his final stand, he will make sure the enemy pays the highest price imaginable. And he is not alone. Cara Dutton, the unshakable force behind the family, sees the war coming just as clearly as Jacob does, and she is ready to do whatever it takes to protect their home. She has fought for this land, bled for it, and if necessary, she will die for it. But with Spencer still absent and their enemies tightening their grip, even she is starting to wonder, how much longer can they hold out? Meanwhile, Teonna Rainwater is facing a battle of her own. For years, she has been running, escaping from the horrors inflicted upon her by those who sought to break her spirit. But no one can run forever. The men who hunt her are closing in, and in episode 6, the consequences of her past actions come crashing down around her. The world she has fought so hard to escape is pulling her back in, and this time, she may not have the strength to fight against it. Every moment is a fight for survival, every step a gamble between life and death. She has always been a fighter, but even the strongest warriors have limits. And as the walls close in, she is faced with an impossible choice. Fight and risk losing everything, or surrender and accept a fate worse than death. The spirits of her ancestors whisper to her, guiding her, warning her. She knows that survival is never guaranteed, but she also knows that if she falls, there will be no one left to tell her story. As the pieces move into place, the tension reaches its breaking point. Episode 6 is not just another chapter in the Dutton story. It is the moment when everything changes. The battle lines are drawn, the stakes higher than ever, and the question on everyone's mind is clear. Who will survive the coming storm? Spencer's fate hangs in the balance. Alexandra's darkest moment is upon her, and the Duttons are standing at the edge of a war that could destroy everything they have built. But in 1923, survival is never just about strength. It's about strategy, about knowing when to strike and when to retreat. And as the storm finally arrives, one thing is certain: no one will escape unscathed. As the storm looms closer, the Duttons, Spencer, and Alexandra find themselves trapped in a deadly game where every move could mean the difference between survival and destruction. But in 1923, fate is as much an enemy as any man with a gun. And in episode 6, that truth is more evident than ever. Spencer, still locked in his relentless battle to return home, is met with yet another brutal obstacle. One that not only threatens his life, but forces him to confront the demons he has carried since the war. His body is battered, his mind pushed to the brink, and for the first time, doubt begins to cloud his once unshakable resolve. He has fought through storms, outlasted mercenaries, and endured the crushing weight of fate's cruelty. But this time, the odds seem impossible. It's no longer just about getting back to the Yellowstone, it's about surviving long enough to even make the attempt. And just when he thinks he's found a way forward, he realizes the truth. He is being hunted. Someone, somewhere, does not want him to return, and they will do whatever it takes to keep him away. The realization sends a chilling fear through him, not for himself, but for Alexandra. If they are after him, then she is in danger too. And if they find her first, there will be no mercy. Alexandra, meanwhile, is enduring a nightmare far more insidious than Spencer could have ever imagined. Stripped of everything, held captive in a world she thought she had left behind, she is facing an enemy unlike any before. One that doesn't strike with bullets or knives, but with control, with manipulation, with the kind of psychological torment designed to break a person from the inside out. The walls around her are not made of stone, but of whispers, of veiled threats, of a future that no longer belongs to her. Her former fiancé, Arthur, has not forgotten the humiliation she caused him, and neither has his family. They see her as a disgrace, a fallen woman who must be punished, and their methods are not swift or merciful. Instead, they are calculated, cruel, a slow unraveling of her identity until she becomes something they can mold, something they can own. But Alexandra is no longer the sheltered aristocrat she once was. She has fought beside Spencer, stared death in the face, and clawed her way through the unknown. And even now, even as the shadows close in, she refuses to surrender. There is still hope. There is still a chance. but it is running out fast. Back in Montana, the war that Jacob and Kara Dutton have been dreading is no longer on the horizon. It has arrived. The ranch is under siege, not by open gunfire, but by the slow suffocation of power and corruption. Whitfield's grip tightens, and with each passing day, it becomes more apparent that this battle will not be won with sheer force. He owns the law, the land, and the loyalty of men who care only for wealth and survival. The Duttons are running out of allies, and their enemies know it. The strategy is clear. Weaken them, isolate them, leave them with nothing until they have no choice but to surrender. But Jacob Dutton has never been a man who surrenders. With Kara by his side, he makes a desperate move, one that could either turn the tide of battle or bring about the end of the Yellowstone forever. The decision is not made lightly, and the risk is unfathomable. But the Duttons have always known one truth. If they do not fight, they will lose everything. And so, they prepare for war, knowing full well that not all of them will make it out alive. As tensions reach a boiling point, Teonna Rainwater's battle takes a horrifying turn. For too long, she has been on the run, a fugitive from a world that sought to erase her very existence. But no one can outrun fate forever. In episode 6, her past catches up to her in the most brutal way possible. The men hunting her have found her trail, and this time, they will not rest until she is either captured or dead. Teonna has spent her entire life fighting to survive. But this is different. This is not just about her anymore. There are others who depend on her, others who have suffered just as she has. And in the face of such relentless cruelty, a question begins to form in her mind. Is survival enough? Or is it time to fight back? For the first time, Teonna is not just running. She is preparing for war. The hunter is about to become the hunted, and when the battle begins, there will be no mercy. With each passing moment, the storm draws closer, threatening to consume everything in its path. Spencer is fighting against an unseen enemy. Alexandra is trapped in a prison of power and cruelty. The Duttons are on the brink of war, and Teonna is standing at the edge of a battle she cannot afford to lose. Episode 6 is a turning point, the moment when everything shifts, when the lines between victory and defeat blur into chaos. But in 1923, one thing is certain. Only the strongest will survive. And as the storm finally breaks, the question remains, who will be left standing when the dust settles? As the dust settles and the storm finally crashes down, the true cost of survival in 1923 becomes painfully clear. The battle lines have been drawn, but war does not always arrive with gunfire. It seeps into the cracks of the soul, tearing at the very foundation of those who dare to fight back. Spencer, Alexandra, the Duttons, and Teonna. All of them are now caught in the ruthless grip of fate, each facing their own reckoning. But in this world, victory is never without sacrifice, and in episode 6, the weight of those sacrifices becomes almost unbearable. For Spencer, his battle is no longer just about survival, it's about retribution. The revelation that he is being hunted has set something ablaze inside him, a rage that refuses to be contained. Whoever is pulling the strings, whoever is keeping him from reaching his family, they have made a fatal mistake. They have underestimated him. But as Spencer fights his way forward, another horrifying truth emerges. Alexandra is in greater danger than he ever imagined. He has always known that the world she left behind would not forget her betrayal, but the cruelty she is now enduring is beyond anything he could have anticipated. The time for patience is over. Spencer must find her, must save her, no matter what it takes. And when he does, there will be no mercy for those who stand in his way. But as he races against time, a chilling question lingers. Will he reach her before it's too late? Or will Alexandra be forced to make an impossible choice just to survive? Alexandra's torment reaches a terrifying climax. Every day in captivity chips away at her strength. Every whispered threat another wound in a battle she is fighting alone. Arthur and his family do not just want her to suffer, they want to erase her entirely, to break her until there is nothing left of the woman who defied them. But Alexandra has tasted freedom, has loved and fought and survived in a way they will never understand. She will not be caged again. And so, she makes her move. In the dead of night, with nothing but her determination, she seizes the only chance she has left. Escape is her only option, but the consequences will be deadly. If she is caught, there will be no second chances. If she fails, Spencer will never find her again. The walls are closing in, and Alexandra must decide, does she wait for Spencer to save her, or does she risk everything for one last shot at freedom? Back in Montana, the battle for the Yellowstone is about to explode. Whitfield's grip has tightened to the point of suffocation, and the Duttons are left with one final desperate option: to fight fire with fire. Jacob, though weary, though burdened by the years of hardship, knows what must be done. There are no rules in this war. If Whitfield wants to play dirty, then so will he. But there is one problem. The cost of war is always blood, and the Duttons are already bleeding. Kara, the unshakable force behind this family, watches as the weight of leadership threatens to crush Jacob. She knows that this battle will not be won with strength alone, that power is not just about who holds the gun, but who has the will to use it. And so, as the Yellowstone stands on the precipice of ruin, Kara takes matters into her own hands. She has spent her life as the heart of this family, but now she must become its sword. The next move she makes will determine everything. And then there is Teonna, the hunted, the survivor, the warrior forged by pain and fire. Her enemies have finally caught up to her, and now she must make her stand. But this time, she will not run. She will not hide. The time for fear is over. The men who have tormented her, who have tried to erase her existence, are about to learn a painful lesson. Teonna Rainwater is not a victim. She is a force of nature, and she will not be silenced. The battle she has been running from has finally arrived, and in episode 6, Teonna will unleash a fury that no one saw coming. The hunted has become the hunter, and those who thought they could break her are about to pay the ultimate price. But even as she fights, even as she claws her way toward a future she refuses to surrender, a dark shadow looms over her path. Because in 1923, no victory comes without a cost. And for Teonna, that cost may be higher than she ever imagined. As the final moments of episode 6 unfold, the storm that has been brewing for so long finally reaches its peak. Spencer and Alexandra's fate hangs in the balance. The Duttons stand on the brink of war, and Teonna's vengeance threatens to consume everything in its path. The choices they make now will determine not just their survival, but the future itself. And as the screen fades to black, one thing is certain: the worst is yet to come. The battle for the Yellowstone, for freedom, for love and legacy, is far from over. The storm may have passed, but the war has only just begun. Share your thoughts in the comment section and subscribe our channel for more 1923 Season 2, Episode 6. Thank you.